Before we dive into OneNote, I'm just going to again share this link with you because most of you would have received an email from me last week asking that you installed the desktop version of OneNote. This article kind of shows you a little bit about the differences between the various OneNotes out there. If you're using the web version of OneNote, I'll just quickly go into there. You can see that it looks quite different to the one that we're going to be using in today's session. So again, if you, not right now, but after the session, if you wanted to have a look at the different versions, that's a good website to have a look at. Now, normally when I'm running these sessions, I do say, let's all jump onto EdPath and log in by EdPath. You can get to the web version here, but today we're going to be using the desktop, so we won't log in via EdPath. However, if you don't have the desktop app installed, you can get it via EdPath. So I will pop that in just in case people don't have the desktop app installed. Okay, and with that, I am going to jump straight into the app to show you some examples. So today we've got a little bit of a mix between corporate staff and school-based staff on this call. So I'm going to give you a little bit of some examples from both scenarios. So this one here, and there is a link to this one, so you can have a look at this example later as well, is an example of staff meeting notes. I might just zoom in a little bit. There we go, that's better. And it doesn't have to be staff meeting, it could be any meetings. So this is OneNote. OneNote is like an online digital notebook. If you think back to when you might have had those yellow spirally books with the different tabs down the side, this is kind of what OneNote is doing, replicating digitally. And you can see I've got tabs here that kind of replicate that. So you can use it for things like minutes, so staff meetings, team meetings. Why would I use OneNote instead of just using Word? Well, the nice thing about OneNote is that you can see here I've got a whole lot of pages and I can just jump from one page to the next really quickly without having to go in and open up a Word document for each of those meetings. I can also really easily, and I haven't got them in here, but I can do links so that I can link from different pages to other pages and move really quickly. So that's one way I might use OneNote. The next example I've got to share you is kind of like a personal way I might use OneNote. So this one here is an example of a personal OneNote. So I use OneNote all the time for my planning and for compiling and organising my notes. I am a very pen and pencil type person though, so sometimes I find myself writing books, and if you've got OneNote installed on a mobile phone or an iPad, for example, you can take a photo directly in the OneNote app and upload it to the right page in your OneNote. This means that I can then add notes around it, and then I can add links and all sorts of bits of information. And if I've got a touch screen, I can annotate those pictures as well. So the next examples I'm going to show you. Oops, I might just get, if you haven't muted, if you can just mute yourself. Thank you. So the next example I'm going to show you are some classroom type examples. So OneNote comes as just a straight notebook, but there's also a couple of special types of notebooks that are OneNotes. There's one called a staff OneNote and there's one called a class notebook. So this one here is an example of a class notebook. It's a special type that you create when you create a class team in Microsoft Teams. And it's got these special sections you can see down here. It's got a collaboration space, a content library, and a teacher library. And then it's got also a section for each of the students in this class. Now, this teacher is extremely lucky because they've only got 4 students in this class, but I think that normally you'd have 30 students listed down here. So this type of notebook is really fantastic if you're wanting to share content with your students in an easy way. If you've got an interactive whiteboard, you can see here, this is an example of a game that I was sharing with my students, and then we were annotating on the side on working on our fractions. So OneNote is wonderful to use as a whiteboard in the classroom because you can do things like that. And then if I wanted to come back to this game in a couple of weeks, all I need to do is click on that page and it brings up the work that I was previously doing. If I do use one like this, a class notebook, my students can also access this. I won't go into too much detail about class notebooks, but they're set up so that students can only access certain sections. They can't write in them, but as a teacher, you've got access to the full lot. I'll just jump into an example of what a secondary class notebook might look like. So again, this one here has got lots of pages. You can see I've got some tables in here. I've got some links to the videos that you can embed. Will it play? Hopefully it will. It is going to play for me, but I'll just pause it. So you can see you can embed videos. These are links to files that are stored in this class team, so you can link to files, etc. And you can see up here I've got all sorts of tabs as well in here, and home pages, etc. So they're really nice way to organise materials for your class. And I think that is the last example I was going to show you. So let's now, if you haven't already, can you open up OneNote on your desktop? So hopefully you've got an icon down here. If you haven't, if you type in OneNote in the search, hopefully it pops up, and the one you want is the OneNote app. Once you've got that open, if you can give me a virtual thumbs up or pop it in the chat, let me know, and then we can move on to creating our own OneNote. Okay, so hopefully your OneNote looks a little bit like mine. It might look slightly different depending on how you got it set up. So what you will find when you go in is you'll normally have one that is just your name at the Department for Education. But let's create a new one just so we can have a bit of a play around in today's session. So if you select File in the top left, and then if you go to New, you then should have some options here. Now I've got my OneDrive synced to my computer, so that pops up here. I've also got Teams. So Teams in M365 apps, Microsoft apps, comes in as sites. So I can save a OneNote directly to a team. But today, if you click on OneDrive or if you click on this PC, you can save the OneNote to the local machine. Now, if you do save it to the local machine, it won't sync to the cloud. So I do recommend that you save it in OneDrive. The reason behind this is that if you save it to the cloud, I can be working in my OneNote on my machine, but I can then also access it from an iPad or my mobile phone or a different computer. So if it's available, select OneDrive, and then just browse and see whether you've got a good folder for it. So I think I've got OneDrive training. Let's put it in there and let's give it a new name. Abigail. OneNote, and we're in May, aren't we? Okay, and then just select Create. Now, that might take a little bit of time. Now, I'm not going to invite people. This type of OneNote that we just created is a personal OneNote that is just living in my OneDrive at the moment, or if I didn't have OneDrive connected, it's living on my local machine. You can also create OneNotes that are in Teams. I just spoke about that Sites button. While people are still getting theirs to pop up, this here is a team, and you can see in this team there's actually this OneNote. Again, it looks a little bit different, but this OneNote is associated to this team. And if you create a OneNote in a team, it means that the OneNote belongs to everybody that can access that team. I might, if I have time, show you how to do that at the end. But for the moment, we should be in our OneDrive desktop app and looking at this brand new notebook that we've just created. Now, a little bit of orientation. So there's my OneNote here at the bottom that I called Abigail OneNote May 2025. I've got this thing called New Section. I can see it says New Section up the top. This is the tab that I'm working in. And I can see this is called Untitled Page. So in OneNote, when you create a page, whatever is above this line comes in as the name of the page. So here I might put in, for example, training test. So when I've typed that above the line, you can see that my page here has been renamed, and now I'm in training test OneNote at the top there. So that's how you name pages in OneNote. It's a little bit different to how you might be naming documents in other Microsoft applications. We can add pages. So if you select add page there, let's do another one, test 2. So each time I click on add page, I can give it a name, test 3, and then I can click between them as well. Now, these have all come in this same section here, which is that tab up the top. And again, it's defaulted to this new section 1, which isn't very helpful. So if we want to rename that, we can right click and go rename. Testing section 1. Here we go. Sandy, your internet isn't working. Offline, I have an open browser. I'm going to. Yes, I am recording the session, Sandy, so you will get a link to the recording. Okay, so we've got test 3 in there, and we've got this new section. Now, let's have a bit of a look around at the other things. Down the side here, you can see I've got lots of different coloured notebooks. These are all OneNotes that I either belong or I've created, or that I'm in a team and have access to and I've opened at some point. So this is the one that we've got open here. So you might find that this is empty. You might have your one that's your name at Department of Education, and then the one that you just created. In here, you might want to do something called pinning if you haven't already, so that you can access those ones. If I unpin that, for example, and this might be what yours looks like, I've now got this drop down, and then I've got my OneNotes that I can look for here. I'm going to repin it though, because I like having them down the side. You've got another couple of options. So if you have used OneNote in the past and find that it looks quite different now, if you go to the View tab, you've got this thing called Tabs Layout. And when I select that, I can change what it looks like. So I can do vertical tabs, which gets rid of that, and the tabs up the top, I can only access them from here. Or I can do horizontal tabs, which gives me those sections up the top. So I have a little bit of a play just between those two. Today I am going to use the horizontal tabs. So if you're following today in today's session, you might want to make sure that your tabs layout just for today is on horizontal. Okay, so we've gone through adding a page, we've renamed a section. I might want to have more than one section. So for example, in this OneNote that I showed you, you can see, not that one, let's try this one. You can see here in this section, which is a content library, I've got 4 different tabs in there. So let's make a section in this one that we're using now. And to do that, I can go to the plus up the top, and then I've got this new section. So let's call this testing section 2. Now, if you're a teacher that likes, or a person that likes doing colour coordination, if you right click on that section, you can choose a colour as well. So again, you might have a OneNote that has quite a few sections, but they're all related to something. Then you could colour code them according to that. So for example, when I team taught with someone, I had all my subjects one colour and all my team teachers' subjects in another colour, so we could easily see whose work was what. So that's a new section. There is one other type that you can do, and that is if you right click on the plus, you can do a new section group. So a new section group will mean that you can have a little bit more organisation. It's a little bit like folders within folders. So I'm just going to right click on that plus, if it will let me, sorry, in the gap, not the plus, and go new section group. Let's call this May training. And then you can see it looks quite different. And if I click on there now, I've got no sections in here at the moment. So let's put one in, practice section. And then I've now got this back button to go back to my original view with those 2 sections I added. I'll go through that one more time. So if I want this section to organise my things a little bit further, I'm going to right click in this grey space here and go new section group, give it a name, May Training OneNote. And then to access it, I can just double click. And then I can select the plus again to do a new section in here. So May Training section 1. And to get back, I click on that back button as well. So we've got sections, we've got pages, and we've got these things called section groups. And you'll see down the side here now, I've got some drop downs in here, because I've got that May Training there, and I've got May Training OneNote, which are my two sections here. Okay, so what are we going to do with these blank pages? What can we do? Let's give this. So let's do this as the Home tab. And now let's have a look at what you can do in the Home tab. So our Home tab is a bit like the Home tab in any of your Microsoft applications. We've got our basic text editing, bullet points, formatting, those kinds of things. So you can just type like you would. The only thing that's different is that I can click anywhere on this page and start typing. And you'll see a text box appears automatically. And then if I wanted to, I could click and drag and reorganize them. Or I can click in and add further to those text boxes. Just like in any other application where you've got typing, you can change your fonts, you can make things bigger and smaller, etc., highlighting. Now, you've got a little bit less flexibility than in a word processor, for example, around things like tables, which we look at in the Insert tab, but all the other things are more or less the same. If you've never had a look at this before, this one here is called a Format Painter. You'll see it in lots of the Microsoft applications. And what that does, if you haven't ever used it before, is pretty magical, is it allows me, if I select a text and then I select this Format Painter, to then click on something else and it will give me the same formatting as the one I selected. So if you've never explored that before, that's a really cool tool to explore. We've got a couple of things that you won't find in other applications. So you've got some quick tags that you can do. So you can do to-do list, which will put a box. You've got a whole lot of different icons that you can add, and you can customize tags as well. These are really helpful if you're searching, so you can search for tags and then all the things that are to do can pop up and things like that. That's your search there for your tags. You can see to do has come in there. If I go in here and add something else, password, website, let's refresh results. It hasn't come in. Let's try again. Phone number. Might actually need to put something in there. Refresh, and then we've got them. So that's a really easy way to tag things and then find information later. Outlook tasks is a little bit difficult if you're in the corporate environment, because this is all linked to your @schools account. So if you're flagging things in your SA government account, they won't show up in your OneNote here. But in schools, that might be helpful if you're one of those people that flags emails. Meeting details is another nice one, but again, if you're a corporate person, you might struggle with this because we tend to book our meetings in our SA Gov. But if I go into here, I can see in my calendar, I've got this OneNote overview meeting scheduled. And when I click on there, you can see it's popped straight into my OneNote, the details of this meeting. And I can go in and see who's invited, and meeting collaborators, etc. So again, really handy if you're using your calendar and you're wanting to put things quickly into OneNote to then add meeting notes and things like that. Dictate, you might have seen in other applications as well. This one here lets you type notes with your voice or dictate notes. So see whether it works for me today, and it looks like it is. So again, if you're one of those teachers that is really slow at typing, or a corporate person that's really slow at typing, or an admin person that's slow at typing, you can use the dictate function to quickly put down your faults just by talking. You will notice I just said faults and it's put it in as faults. So you will have to go back and do some editing there as well. But it's also great for students. If you've got some of those students that really struggle with typing and writing, but have lots of ideas, they can use this dictate tool to put their ideas down into OneNote. So let's stop listening. You've got the transcribe as well, which is similar to dictate, but you've also got this record audio as well. So again, I'm especially thinking of those teachers, or maybe if you're someone that has to do lots of driving and wants to listen to notes, so it might be a bit tricky with OneNote, but you can do this record audio. Once you press it, it automatically starts recording. So just be mindful of that. But this is recording what I'm saying. So again, if you're using it with students, this is fantastic for giving feedback. If you just want to say something quickly, because your students respond better to spoken feedback rather than written feedback. So if I press stop now, it should have recorded. And if I press play, I don't think I'm sharing my audio, but when I press play, if I was sharing my audio, it would play it back for me. If I've done something wrong, I just have to delete it and then re-record it. Let's go back to the home though. So that's hidden under transcribe record audio. You'll notice in OneNote, there's also quite often some hidden things under the three dots, the more options menu. In this one, there isn't much, it's just the clipboard, and then your normal copy and paste, so Control-C and Control-V working. But when we get to another tab, there's a few other things that are hidden there. Okay, so that's the home tab. Okay, let's add another page. Let's call this one Insert, tab, and let's have a quick look at Insert. Now, Insert again is more or less what you'd expect to find in other applications. There are a few different things in here though. Now, tables in OneNote are one of the worst things. You don't have as much flexibility as you do in something like Word or Excel, but you can add tables. Normal function here, but when you insert it, you'll notice that it comes in a block and it's a little bit less easy to manipulate than you would find in other programs. You can't right click and merge cells, unfortunately, so you do have just what you've got. You can though, if you go to the table tab up here, you can do a bit of shading, you can hide borders, you can do stuff like that, but they aren't as nice as normal tables. Let's go back to insert. Insert space, just filler. These ones here we have a look at in a moment, but you've got your screen clipping, so that will allow you to take a screenshot, and it's dropped it straight into that page for me. I'll do that again. So screen clipping, I can actually go, well, it's the one behind, but whatever I take the clipping of, it's going to drop it in. I'll just zoom out for a moment, as I am. And then you can see I've got both those. There's that first one and there's that second one, screen clipping, that I've put in. Let's move that up and move that one down. and then zoom back in for you. And back to insert. So that's really handy if you're wanting to take screenshots of websites and things and then annotate them. Pictures is normal. Page templates is something particular to OneNote. So there's lots of like background type things. You'll see that it's put it in as a new page though. And if I click on page templates, there's a whole range that you can do. One nice thing about OneNote though is that I can also do this save current page as a template. So not a great example, but say I've got a day book and I want it laid out a certain way each day. I might have a table in there with things to know about, yard duties, etc. And I don't want to have to put that table in every time or copy and paste it. I can go to that page, create it how I want it, and then select this Save Current Page as Template, give it a name. I can set it as the default for new pages in this section. So that might be where you create the section and call that Daybook, for example. And then when I do a new page now, it's going to replicate that page that I've just saved. So again, really handy if you're doing meeting minutes, day books, anything where you want the page in your OneNote to look kind of the same and just fill in the information. Okay, links is like a normal link. Date and time will give you the date or the time. Symbols, just like any other program. Equations lets you do your maths equations. So that's really handy if you're teaching maths with OneNote. And Maths Assistant is something that is very particular and very different to OneNote. Can you put your hand up if you're a maths teacher on the call? Or if you're a primary teacher that teaches maths to your students? Have you got any maths teachers? We've got one. We've got a couple. So this Maths Assistant is a really cool tool. You can show it to your students. You can use it yourself. You can direct your students to the C steps if they're using it for the first time. But all you need to do, well, let's go here. You can see is we can write or type in an equation. 2 plus 5 equals y or 7y. We can then select it. So the select tool is actually in the drawer and it's this lasso. Oops. Oh, because I didn't draw it, I typed it. It actually wants me to just select it there, I think. Let's go back to insert. Click on Maths Assistant. Then it's got my equation. I can select what I want it to solve. So maybe I want it to graph it. Oop. Maybe I want to solve it for y. And then this is where the power is because it will show me the steps. Very language rich, but you can see here it's got this immersive reader option. So it will then, if I click on this, it should read it out to the student or allow the student to play and hear those steps as well. Immersive reader, if you've never seen this before as well as reading out things that are written, so in this case in English, it does allow you to translate for your English as a second language students. So you can translate that and so they can understand the steps, even though they are quite language rich. The other nice thing though, you might be a bit scared, hey, it solved it for me, the students aren't doing any work, but there's this maths practice option here as well, which then kind of creates a little quiz for them, so that they can see 4 plus 3 = 4y, 7 over 4, let's see if that's right. Yes, phew. And again, it will do the steps for it there. So a handy little thing to know about if you're teaching your students maths, or if you've got a problem that you can't remember how to solve as well. In here as well, we've got this thing called record video. So we looked at recording audio, so you could give audio feedback, but OneNote also allows you to, it won't let me do it because I'm in the Teams call, but if I was off the Teams call, I could select that and then it's going to record a little video so I can use that to give feedback as well to my students. In here, there is some other options. Now this one here is Visio. It only works with the Visio desktop app, and for that you need a different license from the standard license. So if you are using Visio diagrams and you do have a license, you can do that. Online video is going to ask for a video HTML. So let's go back into my browser and let's just go in and get a URL, copy back into OneNote. You don't have to do this. I'm just showing you. Which one is it? This one. And it's got 2 HTTPs. That won't work. And so there I've got that video embedded. Really easy to do. And then the other fun one, if you're using OneNote with students, is your stickers here once they load. Now I've said it's going to take a while, but hopefully they do load. It's taking a while for me. We might leave that and come back to it, but they're normally really cool stickers that you can just drop onto a page. Okay, let's delete some of these pages that I inserted in. If you did that too, you can. So to delete them, I'm just going to click on the bottom, hold Shift on my keyboard, highlight them all, then right click and delete. That's got rid of them all. I might have actually deleted the page I was working on, but that's okay. And let's add a new page. So let's add a new page. It's got my same template, but this one we're going to call Draw. Now, the Draw tab is really cool, especially if you've got a touch device or you've got an interactive whiteboard. So you've got lots of pen tools up the top here. You can change them. You can add a pen as well. Let's go in here. Let's do something fancy. Make the thickness bolder. And then hopefully your writing is better than mine. Mine is just scribble, but you can go ahead and use those writing tools as you would if you've got a stylus. Highlighter will go over the top. This lasso will let you select your pen marks as well, so you can then move things around. The panning hand. So if you're in this draw mode, the panning hand is how you can move your screen. So I didn't mention before, but OneNote, my stickers aren't working, are they? So OneNote is actually a never-ending whiteboard. So I can keep on going as far as I want across and as far as I want down. That's really handy if you are doing work on the board and say one lesson you do this, you do your working out, then you can keep on going here with more work later, etc. So really nice to be able to do that. And when we're in draw, to move our screen, we want panning hand. If I'm back into my mouse, I just click there, you'll see that I've got my bars that return. But if I'm using the drawing tools, I need the panning hand. Heather, I'm hoping that that hand raised is because you're a maths teacher. So I'm just going to lower that hand, but if it's a question, put it up again and let me know. Okay, we've got a ruler. So if I put my ruler in, I can measure lines. I can hopefully do angles. I'm struggling a bit, aren't I? Let's do view and go out. I'm not working very well with the ruler today, am I? There we go. We should be able to. I should be able to move it, and it's not working for me. So let's get rid of that. I might send some further resources on using the ruler because it normally doesn't come in at 45 degrees and you can normally rotate it. But we've also got this format background. So again, this one is really handy if you're using it with students on an interactive whiteboard, for example. Your maths lesson, you can put grid lines up so that you can draw and do your graphs on the board. Handwriting, you can put your lines up and then you can get the students to practice writing on lines and things like that as well. If you've got students that struggle with white backgrounds, for example, you can also do page colours. So a student can do a page colour to make it more accessible for them. Shapes are just our normal shapes. Automatic shapes, that's for when I'm drawing. I can, if I turn that on, do a circle and it should change it into an oval for me. So that one's handy if you're doing lots of writing on the board, for example. Math, ink to maths again. Let's put it in 4 + 3, and it's done it there for me. So there it is. Excellent. Maths assistance, this is another a place where you can get that, the same as we saw in insert. And in here, if we go to the 3 dots, we've got this other thing, which is quite magic, which is ink replay. Now, to show you this one, I'm just going to go into a proper example. So I'm in this one, and here I've been showing the students how to use the Italian lattice method to solve long multiplication. It's quite complex. They might have forgotten what order I had to do things in. So if I've got this in my class notebook, for example, they can go in, go ink replay, and they can see that I've counted 3, done 3 here. They can see the order in which I've annotated the board. So again, this ink replay is really powerful if you're needing to do something in a particular order and you're wanting people or students to be able to play it back and see how things were done. So lots of different subject areas and content where this tool could be used: maths, writing, handwriting for junior primary students, visual arts, if you're doing things like teaching people how to do portraits, etc. Lots and lots of ways that you can use this ink replay tool. It's really powerful. If you're a corporate person, probably not as exciting, but for you teachers out there, it's a really cool tool. Okay, let's do another page. Again, I've got that silly template on, so I might actually go back to my insert, back to my page templates and go page templates. And down here, you see I've got this day book, my templates in. I'm just going to change it back to no default template. Phew. And now if I do a new page, whoops, it's just saving. Yes, here we go. I've now just got a blank page. Excellent. So let's put this one in and let's call this one history. There's not too much to go through in the history. History tab. For us, because it's only our personal one, it's not that useful to do things like find by author. But if you're sharing a notebook, that one can be quite useful. Hopefully it's in this one. So for example, this here is a table that my students have filled out. And it's not going to show me. Yes, it is. So here I can see the initials down the side of who contributed to those things in the table. So useful if you're collaborating. Let's go back into my practice one though. Practice session, May training 1. This section, where am I? There I am. You can unread and mark things as read as well if you're collaborating. So not much in the history. Review tab is where you'll find your spelling and things like that. View tab is where you will go to access this immersive reader, which I showed you briefly before in the maths notes. You can do your pages in here as well. But the zoom in here is really handy. So if it's on your whiteboard, you might want to zoom right out. But if you're taking notes and writing them, you might want to zoom in so that you can do smaller handwriting, for example. So that's really handy to know about in the view. Now, your OneNotes probably don't have this class notebook tab. They will have the help that has some links to training, but the class notebook tab is actually what we call an add-on. If you are thinking about using class notebook with your students, I highly recommend that you install this. I'll send a link to where you can get that to install when I send a follow-up email. But this allows you to do lots of managing of a class notebook when you're working with students. Now, there was one really important thing that we missed in the Insert tab. So let's hop back to the Insert tab, and that is this file printout and file attachment. So you might have remembered in that first, those couple of first examples, I had some pictures and things like that. I had a worksheet when I'm doing my maths game. OneNote allows you to take a document or a resource or a PowerPoint or any file, and you can do this thing called file printout, which will turn the pages into images. So if you're in Insert, if you can select File Printout. Now, it doesn't for this because we're just playing around. It can be any document. Let me put in this one. And when I select Insert now, what it's going to do, I might have to zoom out, and mine's taking a little bit of time. So let's do zoom out. What it's done is this particular document is 3 pages long with 1 page being blank. So let's delete that. But it's put a copy of the file in here. You can see it's saved to this local machine. And it's then changed these into images. Now, the reason that this is really great is then, because they're images, I can go to my Draw tab, I can get my highlighter, I can highlight, scribble, don't use red, let's use green. I can circle things, I can write annotations and give feedback. If it's a worksheet or something that I've put for my students, we can go through as a class, we can circle things, we can fill in boxes, etc. So really nice way to have a visual, something visual on a board, or collaborate with your team on the same document, and rather than using things like track changes, do those visual annotations. One thing to note, every time you insert a file and it inserts this file, let's just go back to that one, it will make this OneNote bigger because the file is actually being stored in the OneNote. So the more times you do this, the bigger the OneNote is and the more time it takes to sync if you're making changes and viewing it on different devices. So I highly recommend, once you do this file printout and you've got your pages in as pictures, that you go ahead and delete that file and instead you store the file in Teams. Okay, so that's in the insert, and that was our file printout. File attachment is going to do the same thing. If I go in here and get that, it's not going to put it in as an image. Well, it gives me the option, but it's going to embed this. And if I do that a lot, my OneNote is going to get really huge and be really slow to open. So I highly recommend that you don't use the file attachment, you use links, but the file printout is brilliant for turning your pages into images so that you can notate, share, show on the board, etc. Okay, we've just about run out of time. I haven't even shown you how to put one into Teams. I will jump back into Teams for a moment because I do just want to show you how you can do this. You can't do it in every type of team. It's only the other type of team. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, when you're in Teams, when you go to join or create team and create team, you've got 4 different options that it gives you. The class, professional and staff all have their own specific type of OneNote. So that class one that I was showing you a little bit is from this type of team. The staff notebook that we didn't look at is very similar to the class one. When you create a staff team, that's the type of notebook that already is created and belongs to it. And PLC has a notebook as well. But if you create the other type of team, then let me just go into my other. You can add as many OneNotes as you want. So you might have one for staffing, leadership processes, and to do that is really easy. I just select that plus, select OneNote, and then I can do create new OneNote. So why am I showing you this? Why would I do it this way? If I want to collaborate on my OneNote, I want to be sharing, I want my staff, my team all to be seeing the pages, knowing the notes, annotating, working together. The OneNote should live in a team. It shouldn't be in my OneDrive, because if I won the lotto, all that work would be lost. So if you're using OneNote for collaboration, definitely set it up in a team. For your own personal notes, do it the way we did it at the beginning. So if you do that, it will come as a tab up the top there. I just won't do it for that there. In the minute we've got left, I will just point out a couple of resources and places you can go for some extra help. I haven't given you much time to think today, but hopefully you got something out of today. So I always like to point out the Microsoft Learn Center. So I just popped that in the chat. I can see there's been a message. Is this part of OneNote is a bit like old MS Whiteboard? Whiteboard is still available, so you can use Whiteboard as well. The nice thing about OneNote is that you can go back easily and have multiple, whereas Whiteboard, you have to go out of each whiteboard and go back into one. Right. So Microsoft Learn, if you go to the Educator Center and overview, there's a whole lot of different resources you can use, and OneNote is there. We have our own YouTube channel that you can access, and that has a whole lot of short videos on OneNote that you can access. I will just let you know about the digital skills dashboard. At the moment, this is the only OneNote course up there, but keep an eye out in case we run more sessions during the year. Now, to get to that, it is from the Plink homepage, Explore, and then Digital Skills. And you'll find the courses like the one you signed up for today, but also resources and how-to videos on here. And with that, I reckon we've finished this session. I'll stop the recording, but I'm happy to stay on if people have questions. Everyone's been quite quiet today. Hopefully that means that you've been busy following along. But yeah, hopefully you found the session useful.